Hello, Eric Walczykowski here, CEO of Bespoke Partners and host of Tailored Talent. Today, I'm joined by Katelyn Quaresma, the head of our financial officers practice. Katelyn, welcome to the show.
Hey, Eric. Good to see you. Excited to be here.
Oh, outstanding. Well, hey, since the last time we talked, I think if we look at the last 2 years, I think the lack of platforms has led to a somewhat downturn in the number of CEOs or CFO starts in the market. Now that we're sitting on the cusp of new platforms, significant private equity investments, what are you seeing in all things financial officers?
Yeah, no, great observation, Eric. I think that's largely right. You know, the downturn market, we saw an uptick in CFO change out. Now, as the market's coming back, I'm definitely seeing some constriction in the market in terms of CFO engagements or turnouts. And I think that's focusing on an exit that's pending in the next 12 months. A lot of these companies have already brought in a new CFO. So I think you're largely right there, and a good observation that we have seen some constriction in the market in terms of CFO searches, which has actually led to a lot of number two searches. We've seen quite a big uptick on the number two front, and have been, I think we're up 50% year over year on doing VP level search work, backfilling or building a team underneath a CFO who's preparing for an exit.
No doubt. So I think when we look at the market and what's ahead of us for the next 6 months, I think there are two drivers of the high demand for financial officer search. The first one is folks that are potentially leveling up ahead of an exit. And then the second is a new platform. So when we think about firms that are leveling up ahead of an exit, what are the key criteria they're looking for in their financial officers?
Good question. I think it's kind of a no-brainer, but exit experience specifically. So having a CFO that has gone through a successful exit under private equity in a middle market or a buyout staged business and can lead through the demands that an exit comes with. It has been a increased or a higher there's been a higher frequency of requests on our scorecards for someone who has that experience relative to maybe someone who's been in a more transformational environment or gone through a turnaround that was, sort of the requests of the 22, 23 vintage CFO searches.
Well, I think that exit experience in the CFO is, as we said, it goes without saying, but I think it impacts the organization on the daily, because the more experience the CFO has in going through that exit, the more that officer can take off the plate of the other folks in the organization and lead to a better outcome. When we think about the new platforms and what's ahead against the broader macro market conditions, what are folks looking for in a CFO in the new platforms?
Yeah, good question. I actually think on both fronts, the other thing I'll add is that more of a CFO plus or CFOO type profile is of high demand. So someone who is more operationally minded CEO can get more leverage from, who is cross-functionally curious and really partnering with the sales organization, the product and tech organization, and driving changes, both if you're looking to do an exit and sort of the leverage that you could get there, but also on these new platforms, having a more CFOO type background has been of high demand. And I think that we're seeing a start to some new platforms and a breaking open of the market has been really exciting for CFOs as well, just looking at maybe more of a growth oriented thesis as opposed to some of the more transformational theses that were the outcome of the downturn market that we saw in 22, 23.
No doubt. As we all know, it's much more fun to operate in a growth environment than a restructuring or cost-cutting environment. So it's been fun to see. Well, when I think about the demand side and this notion of leveling up before exits that are coming in the next 12 to 18 months, I think about the new platforms that have already started, and I think it's going to accelerate in the next 6 to 12 months. And then I think about supply and financial officers waiting for that outcome. And so I think we're seeing a pinch in terms of this tight talent market getting tighter. Are you seeing that? And if so, what are kind of the keys to success in solving that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the market is tighter than it has ever been. I think you outlined some of the key factors there. And if you kind of take a step back and look at CFOs who are willing to make a jump, the strong players who got caught in a business that was that was bought at the peak of the market and maybe wasn't going to be a successful outcome, they made a move already and they're locked in. I think you've got a lot of CFOs that are focused on, I've got 12 to 18 months to get an exit done. I'm not going to make a move ahead of that. So they're locked in. So the demand for or the ability to pull a proven CFO in this market is very constricted and very tight. we've still operated in 85 days to close on our CFO search work here. So I think that there's definitely some ways that you can get creative. And one of the things that we've seen, or one of the ways that we've found in the last year, has been looking at high potential step ups. And I think you can kind of look at that in two different avenues. One is just a true VP Finance step up candidate. They saw scale as a number two at a premier business. They've got relevant experience. We've got faith that they could step into the role for the first time. The other is looking at someone who is a first-time CFO at a smaller scale business. They saw scale as a number two in their role prior or in the prior years. And we've got faith that now they've got a couple of years under their belt as a CFO, albeit smaller scale. You pair that with the scale they saw as a number two, and we get comfortable that they could be a great fit for this asset. So I've seen that play out in the larger, like upper middle market buyout stage businesses, and then more of the true step up playing out in some of the lower middle market and middle market stage businesses as a way to get creative, to drive top of funnel, and a successful placement. It's still a record days to close.
No, that's fantastic. Well, and it's great to hear we're having success. And I think, when you look at the broader aspects of how you solve this, starting with the entire market is huge. And the executive index is our secret weapon in allowing us to do that. And then when I think about your team and the sheer number of private equity-backed CFO searches you all have completed in the last 24 months, gives you unparalleled expertise to solve these searches, get these executives on the phone and know either who's a fit for the role from a proven standpoint or who's ready to step up. And I think that's critical. One of the things I've been thinking about as we head into this kind of next season of growth. I think the last season of growth, we're coming off COVID, and it's like, hey, live wherever you want. We don't care. You don't have to be in the office. Last couple of years, you hear a little bit of, hey, return to office. Markets were depressed and the like. Now that we're going into this uber tight talent market again, new platforms, what are you seeing in terms of geo?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think geo, certainly the pendulum has continued to swing back to the pre-COVID era. I wouldn't say we're fully there. I think there's still some remote first companies and also more flexibility, generally speaking. That said, having a CFO that is boots on the ground and someone that can walk the halls has become more and more of a theme. So geo has also become a factor that we consider. I think some of the things you do there is you map ties to a location, be it that they went to college there, they have family ties there. And Eric, I think you pointed out that given all we do is private equity-backed software search work, our ability to have these relationships with candidates and know geos that they'd be open to because of family ties or because of personal preferences, et cetera. We have those records. So we're able to really kind of get creative to drive interest into specific geos and help alleviate geo constraints, which has become more and more of a demand on scorecard as well as we think about right CFO for this phase.
Well, no, and one of the little talked about features of the index is really the triangulation of home address, stated area on LinkedIn, vacation homes, and then affiliations of past addresses that Kirk's team was able to map, which the research team tells me is an invaluable resource as we think about geo and people's affiliation for that. When we think about this tight talent market, we're talking about, number two's up 50% or that second level. What are you seeing really in the number twos? What are the hot roles right now in terms of number twos in the finance department?
So I think it's really just coming off of a CFO search or working with CFOs that we've placed in the last 2 or 3 years, leveling up their teams as they think about the next phase for the business, whether that is an exit or it's a 3 to 4 year run, and I need a stronger team. The scorecard's not too dissimilar to some of the CFO scorecards, just a junior version, and a lot of times it's an exciting move for these number twos because it's the step they need in order to get the CFO title and for their next run. But I think we've seen an uptick on later stage buyout scale businesses and earlier stage, more middle market businesses. So across the board, really helping to level up teams as CFOs think about next phase. The other thing that has been a trend is some of these CFOs are thinking, this is my last turn and I want to groom a potential replacement for me. So it's almost like a deputy CFO VP that will get an opportunity to step into the seat. So I think that gets really exciting for these number twos to step into that role and be groomed up under a high caliber CFO who's thinking about what's next in their career, be it boards or operating partner roles or retirement or whatever their next journey will be.
No, that's fantastic. Well, as we think about compensation, demand is higher than it's been in the last 2 years. Supply is probably at an all-time low when we think about that. How's that impacting compensation?
Yeah, it's a good question. I actually think that there was more comp inflation demands in the 2019, 2020 era. CFOs have gotten more sophisticated in their questioning. So it's definitely like there is no bargain out there. You get what you pay for, certainly. But I think the conversation has shifted to really understand like how real is the equity? Do I believe in the ability to get to an outcome at a various multiple? Do I need a de-risked version of this waterfall? Because I think that a 3x is going to be a really difficult outcome here. And I'd rather anchor to more of a 2 or a 2.5x return. So I think that it's shifted to more of a let's really boil this down. And is this a very real package as opposed to I want this inflated comp package that the bonus never ended up paying out because the business underperformed. So long-winded way of saying, yes, it's still a demand. It's just more of a sophisticated conversation that really anchors to likelihood of equity outcome, in addition to a strong cash and bonus compensation package too.
Which I think really gets to understanding the intangibles of the business, the quality of the asset, who the PE firm is behind it, who the CEO is, what the end market is. And again, I think it comes back to, if you think about an executive search partner, having a practice that focuses on nothing but software and is able to interpret the nuances in the business and be able to articulate those to candidates is key. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I would very much think that's one of our value adds, and have seen it play out in real time over and over again.
No, fantastic. Well, Katelyn, congratulations on another successful year. Very excited for what's to come in terms of this pickup in demand for financial officers, and just excited to have your leadership and have your team on the case.
Thanks for having us. It's been a fun year. Looking forward to 2026.
Have an amazing day.